Is marriage worth it? There was a debate by Andrew Wilson and Greg Adams 2 days ago. Watched it yesterday and had some thoughts and wanted to share it. First and foremost, I'm going to give a quick, not summary, but my take on the debate. I'm not going to really go through, we're not going to watch their debate or react to it or anything. I just want to have a quick conversation. Basically, from my perspective, the first 5 minutes was within the first 5 minutes, they both agreed. Yes, marriage is worth it. The problem is what comes after marriage. And so, like, is it worth it? Yeah, marriage is great. They both agree. But Andrew, his take is to help mitigate the risk of divorce and all the problems that come with marriage is he believes that it needs to be removed from the government's hand and placed into the ecclesiastical churches, allow religion to be responsible for marriage. Now, the way I would understand this, maybe this isn't Andrew's argument, but this is the way I would understand that would happen, is just like the government can't get involved when you get baptized in a church or you perform some church ceremony, the government doesn't get involved and make rulings, generally speaking. People can, of course, sue, but generally the person winning is the church because the church is responsible for freedom or has the freedom of religion in the United States. And so the way I see it is if marriage becomes like baptism and a responsibility of the churches, then the government can't have a say on what happens with that ceremony. Part of the problem, which I think is partly what Greg's argument is that even if the churches did take over, the government's still going to overstep because there's two people coming into an agreement, whether or not it's by the church. To the government's perspective, probably wouldn't matter. Plus, for so long, they've had so many legal standing to like actually get involved in our lives between marriage. And that's really the core of the issue. I think they both recognize the degeneracy that is taking place and everyone's failing. And so that's kind of the debate that was going on, at least the first part of it. The first half, in my opinion, it felt like Andrew was losing. The reason it felt like he was losing to me is because Greg just honestly, he wouldn't stop talking. He kept saying the same phrases. He would come up with some phrase and then say it like 4 or 5 times while Andrew was trying to get a point across and not actually listening to Andrew. Andrew would ask a question and then Greg just wouldn't answer it. And then he'd be like, no, you have to answer my questions. Only answer my questions. And to be honest, it was very annoying. But because he asserted himself and he stood his ground, it felt like he was winning. Towards the end, I think Andrew started winning because Greg started providing no substance after all the fact. He just kept saying again the same thing, same phrases, and started offering no substance. Andrew, I would also say in the first half, Andrew was saying things like, I don't understand. You're talking nonsense. And Greg used that to his benefit to be like, wow, you're such an idiot that you can't understand. And so that kind of forced Greg into the winning position. It's a great tactic that Andrew used in certain situations. I just think in this situation, it didn't really work. He pivoted. And in the last half, that's when I felt like Andrew actually really started winning. And it's because of the facts. Now, whether or not you agree on the facts is the different story. But because he was at least presenting facts with dates and numbers, kind of felt like he was winning there. Now, my opinion, is marriage worth it? First and foremost, yes, marriage is worth it. The second part of that is I actually agree with both of them. I think that religion should be removed from state and be given to religion, to ecclesiastical hands completely. Get the state out of religion. They never should have been in it in the first place. I think part of the arguments that I disagree with Andrew is, if I remember correctly, he was talking about how their like government incentives can help increase marriage. That is true, but in my opinion, that's not a reason to get married, is for tax and benefits and all that. Like the reason to get married is to procreate, to make children, and to grow a new unit of individuals to help take over the government, to help take over the society that you are a part of. And if you have values, it's your job to instill those values so that you can continue. I want a legacy. I want to be able to continue. Why would I not? So, and I think part of the issue is, yeah, government might help incentivize it. And I understand the argument that just like anything that incentivizes it, we should do it. But the problem again is we are a degenerate society. But I also agree with Greg, because we're a degenerate society, a lot of people just shouldn't get married. I really think so. If you cannot find a person who matches your level of commitment and loyalty that you can marry and stay with forever, you probably shouldn't get married. And that's hard to suss out. And I understand that. I'm sure you've heard the phrase strong men make strong times make weak men make weak times, and weak times make strong men. In my opinion, the boomers were handed a strong time. And by strong time, I don't just mean financially, I also mean morally, people with good character. Okay, today we see that boomers, they're slightly fractured, but they're not completely fractured. The left hates Trump, and that's really all that boomers got is like, we hate Trump, no kings. And on the right, they're like, we like Trump and whatever. And you can kind of see this almost like apathy. Like, and I'm not saying all boomers, there's a lot of good boomers. I like you good boomers. But they were handed this greatness. And because of that, I think they were made weak. I think that they have extracted from the system. And they're going to be like, I'm not weak. I picked myself up by the bootstraps. And it's like, you think you picked yourself up by the bootstraps, but you can't pick yourself up by your bootstraps when you're living in an economy of greatness. Okay, if you grow up in the land with roads paved with gold, it's not hard to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Okay, it's hard when everything goes to shit. And that's kind of where we're at. And I don't want this to be like me focusing on boomers or whatever, or like attacking them. But I will say, I do believe that boomers, for the most part, have extracted from society as much as they can. And they did not instill the values that should have been instilled in their children, which generally most of them were millennials. And that's my generation. I'm a millennial. I think I had pretty good parents. I'm not going to, again, I don't think it's all boomers, but the millennial generation has been infantilized because, again, we were living in the city of gold. And so we were given everything and didn't have to worry about anything. And again, I'm not saying everybody, but generally speaking, there was this wealth of the boomers that they had that they were giving to their children, and the children were able to do whatever and not have much to deal with growing up. And so now we're still acting like children. We're not taking over the government. I think the average age of government is like 59 or something, which means that millennials are grossly underrepresented. We're not actually taking over the reins of power like we should have been. And part of that's also because Gen X never took the powers. We've had a boomer president, I think, since Nixon. For decades, there's been a boomer president. So Gen X never even took the responsibility of the government on their heads. And boomers just never gave it up. They just keep doing it. And that's what I mean by extraction. And not only that, but again, we're having this degeneracy. Gen Z is more bifurcated than any other group of people, any other generation. And Gen Alpha is probably going to be even worse when they start coming of age and we can actually find out what they believe. And so because of this, I think we're actually in weak times. Now, there's the economy side of it, which honestly, when most people think of strong times or weak times, they almost always jump to the economy. And that's so weird to me. Like, no, the economy doesn't mean we're in strong times or great times. You can be in strong times and have a bad economy. Strong times are about having people of moral fortitude, having character. And we're lacking that. We are a degenerate society. We are weak men. And so I look at the world and I go, I'm a weak man, and we have weak men around me. We need to rise. And to be honest, I think Gen Z has the strongest opportunity to become strong because of how weak times are. Things are so degenerate. And the economy, again, I don't even think it's that great. People say it's great. It's great for boomers. Boomers got like 50 to 60% of all of the stocks and equity is in boomers' names. And like 50% of real estate assets are in boomers' names. So boomers have the vast majority of the wealth. They're not giving up the reins of power. I mean, they finally are. I heard news that Nancy Pelosi's finally retiring. She's 85. She's been in government longer than I've been alive. So boomers are finally doing it, but it's also because they're coming of age. They've hit their mortality cliff, and we're going to be seeing a lot of the boomers starting to pass away. And Gen Z is going to have to figure out how to live in this world. And I, like, as much as I want to say sorry, I'm not sorry. You guys get the chance to become strong men. Okay. And personally, I'd rather be a strong man than a weak man. And that is the opportunity that you've been given. And I know life is hard. I know life is difficult, and you got a lot of things you got to figure out. And I want to help. And that's partly why I'm doing this, is because of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Okay. I have my own kids. They are Gen Alpha, and I see what is on the horizon. And it is strong times, because I believe in you to build strong things. You've been dealt a horrible hand. Now is the time to rise up. Now is the time to become those strong men that we need to build and to fortify. And so to that point, if you cannot find a strong, virtuous woman as a man, I agree with Greg. You probably shouldn't get married. And I hate to say that because we need to get married and we need to have children so that we can begin to continue on passing on our values. And some will say it's not worth the sacrifice. I actually think it could be worth the sacrifice. If you are a strong man and you know that a woman might divorce you in the future, it still might be good for you to get a divorce if you know that you are a strong man with good fortitude, that you can put those values in your children. And if you can put those values in your children, we'll be all right. But if you can't instill your values into your children, I almost agree with Greg here at this point. Society is already getting destroyed because we've already destroyed the family. So Andrew brings up a lot of facts. I kind of wanted to address some of the facts, not necessarily specifically the ones he covered, but I wanted to talk about them. So revealing divorce statistics in 2025, which is funny because it's not 2025. It was data from 2022. So how are they revealing in 2025? I don't know. But a total of 673,000 divorces and annulments occurred across the 45 states that report. And during that same year, 2 million marriages occurred in the US, which is a rate of 6.2 per 1,000 people. So how many marriages end in divorce? So there's that famous statistic that half of all marriages end in divorce. And this is where the data always gets confusing and why data can be manipulated to tell you something that it's not. It's a bit of an exaggeration when it comes to first marriages, only 43% of which are dissolved. So it's not actually 50% are getting divorced, because most of the time when people hear about divorce, they're thinking of like every individual getting a divorce. 60-ish% of individuals actually don't get divorced. They actually stay together. So your chances are more than a coin flip. Okay, so at least there's that. The second and third marriages actually fail at a far higher rate, with 60% on second marriages and 73% on third marriages ending in divorce. So first and foremost, I don't think people generally should be getting remarried. If you get a divorce, unless it's like super early on in the marriage, you probably just shouldn't get remarried. I get it. People are lonely. People want to be around other people, especially of the opposite sex. We were built to be together. And sadly, the more like if you're going to get remarried, you're more likely to just not get married again, or to get another divorce. It's like at this point, a 60% chance. It's more than a coin toss that you won't stay married for the second time. And the third time, 3 out of 4. Man, humans were not meant to get divorced. So when do couples divorce? When marriages end, usually some time has passed since the wedding. In fact, the average length of marriage prior to divorce is 8 years. So 8 years, if you can make it to the 8-year point. I wish they gave the number. I tried pulling the data and I was having some problems, whatever, but it would be interesting to find out how many of the marriages are after, right? Because it could be that the average is brought higher because people get divorced after 40 years. Or it could just be that there's a lot of divorces at 4 and a lot of divorces the same amount at 12. And so it averages to 8, right? That's the problem with averages is like, I don't know, every time I see an average, I like data. I've done data stuff at work and things, different careers. Anytime you get an average, you kind of need to know like what are the extremes and where do the extremes kind of fall. It kind of helps tell a better story than just the average, but the average is 8 years. How long does divorce take and how much does it cost? $7,000. Okay, what happens after divorce? Fewer people are remarrying after divorce than did so in the past. In 2008, there was 48.9 remarriages per 1,000 previously married males and 25.2 remarriages per 1,000 previously married females. So females, almost half of the amount of men that get remarried are getting remarried. Those numbers fell to 32 remarriages for males and 17 remarriages for females. Again, pretty close to half, just over half here. So why is it that men are getting remarried more than the women are getting remarried? And to be honest, I think it's because women have children, they get divorced. And to be honest, if I saw a woman with a divorce, the likelihood that she instituted the divorce is extremely high. That would be a risk that I would have to take, is knowing, because women, I think, is it this one? No, that's the religion one. I had one that talked about the women, and I don't remember what it was. It's like 69% of divorces were initiated by women. So 70%, 7 out of 10 of the women that you meet initiated the divorce. So what I would love to see with this statistic is how many of the women and how many of the men have kids and how many of them don't have kids that are getting remarried. I think that would tell a story, a very important story, because a lot of men aren't going to want to raise some other man's children. Some men do. My dad did. He raised children that were not his own, and I thank him for that. Not for me specifically, but for my brothers and sisters. So men are remarrying far greater. And that, honestly, that also tells a story to me. Men want to be married, in my opinion, more than women want to be married. And we're kind of seeing that today. And I think the reason is because women don't necessarily want to be married. I think a lot of women actually want children. And a lot of women will say, oh, I don't want children, right? They want the career. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I think society has diluted all of our brains, men and women, to believe that women shouldn't like children. But in reality, women love children. So women love children. That means they want to have babies. And men, well, they love companionship. They love having someone there to listen and to be with. That's kind of it. Men want to be married. They want to be with women. And to be honest, I was reading the Family Proclamation of the World, LDS Church belief. I'm LDS. And in it says that men are primarily responsible for providing and protecting, and women are primarily responsible for nurturing. And I find this very funny because, or not funny, but like, I just find this interesting. Men love to provide, and women love to be provided for. Okay, that's why women generally seek for status and wealth, is because they want to be provided for. Kind of seems like we're built for each other. Men love to protect. Women love to be protected. Right? In the fantasy, a lot of girls do actually like, I'm not saying all girls, but a lot of girls, and it's been a stereotype for years, is that girls want to be that woman in distress that's saved by a big, strong man. And the man wants to be that big, strong man that saves the girl from the dragon. Women love to nurture. Men love to be nurtured. Okay. How many of you wives get annoyed with your husband because when he's sick, he just lays in bed and he's like, oh, I'm so bad. Okay. There's two things here. One, men love to be nurtured and women love to nurture. Okay. My wife loves to help take care of me. And I mean that. She does love it. And I love it when she takes care of me when I'm sick. And then I feel extremely guilty when she gets sick. And I try to do everything I can to help take care of her because I understand I can't feed my babies. My wife has to feed the babies, which means she has to get up even though she's sick and take care of my children. Okay. But on that same end, men have their own struggles to deal with outside of being sick. Okay? Men do the vast majority of infrastructure building, which is very hard, laborious work. Men and women have their own problems. We have our own rules and our own responsibilities. Marriage is worth it. But again, I understand people not wanting to take the chance, a 40% chance of getting divorced, especially if you have children. So many men are losing their children because courts, it's like, I don't know, I read it somewhere. It's like 80% of divorces, the woman definitely gets the children, like when there's children involved. And there's a lot of really good men that could and should be raising their children over some of these women. I'm not saying all, but definitely some of these women. All right, so I want to talk about this, and this is one area where the data could definitely be wrong. The divorce rate has decreased from 4 to 2.4 since 2000. So in 2000, a total of 944,000 divorces and annulments occurred. The crude divorce rate was 4.0. I don't know why I said 0, but 4 per 1,000. By 2022, it's fallen to 2.4 per 1,000. So a lot of people like to reference this, like, look, divorce is on the decrease, but marriage is also on the decrease. And so the question is, what are these as a representative, like how, what is the percentage of divorce compared to the marriages? So divorce might be going down. That's good. That's really good. But if marriage is going down quicker than divorce, it's actually really bad. It means the percentage of divorces is actually increasing. So we don't actually know what this means. This on its own doesn't actually tell a story. Now, if everyone got married and we knew everyone got married and that stayed consistent, this would look good, but we don't have that data. I tried having Grok find that data for me, and I'm trying to find it. It created like a graph for me. Basically, it suggests that that divorces are going down. So in 2000, Grok says U.S. first marriage divorce rate % ending in divorce. So in 2000, it was like 50. In 2022, it's about 40. Again, here's the other problem is that's not taking into effect lifetime. So there's individuals today who just got married who are not divorced and have never been divorced, but will get divorced in 8 years. So it's a lagging indicator. We don't actually know. Maybe the decrease yeah. So again, we don't have really good data when it comes to this. A lot of people try to say we do. Here's the religious one that everyone likes to reference. But again, this one, lovetoknow.com, connection between divorce statistics and religion, is also inaccurate because the divorce rates were based on currently divorced. Are you currently divorced? So what this would say or suggest is within these communities, apparently atheists remarry either a lot or aren't getting divorces. But again, it doesn't actually tell the story. It could be, let's just say Jehovah's Witness, let's say that for whatever reason, 50% of them actually, let's say 60% of them get divorced. But of that 60%, almost 90% of them are getting remarried, which means there's a 9% that are currently divorced. But then let's say on the atheist end, maybe there's only a 4% divorce rate and 2% get remarried. Or sorry, and half of them get remarried. That would be 2% of atheists currently divorced. So it's like this doesn't actually say anything. There's no data there. This one, I didn't actually look into this one. I'm just taking this at face value that women are 70% likely to initiate the divorce. That seems right. What was this? Oh, life expectancy. I was looking at this. Apparently, if you're married, you tend to live a healthier life. And if you live a healthier life, you're going to live longer than unmarried men, because unmarried men tend to not live as healthy of a life because there's not a wife nagging them to do so. So, that's kind of my thoughts. I want to leave it there. If you disagree with anything I said, go ahead and let me know. I'd love to hear it in the comments. You can find me on X at Reese J. Crockett. You can complain to me there or debate me. Love to talk things through. If you liked this video, please like it. There's a little button you can push and say you like it. If you do like what I do, though, genuinely, please share this video. Sharing a video beats all the algorithms. Sharing the video is you saying that you actually care about the message that I have to share. And I think it needs to be heard. Again, I'm trying to talk for Utah on the basis of Utah, what's happening for Utah. And I think Utah is losing its soul. The whole nation is, but I'm worried about Utah. Okay. I can't worry about people in New York. I can't worry about people in California. I can't worry about Texas. I don't live there. I didn't grow up there. Utah is my place and we're losing it. So I'm trying to get the message out there. If you live in Utah, marriage is worth it. Marriage is great. There's a chance you might get divorced, and I'm sorry. And let's talk about ways to mitigate it. Hopefully I did an okay job letting the information out there. I don't have a good prescription yet, but maybe I'll come up with one. Other than you got to live a righteous life first. Find someone else that's righteous, suss them out, find that person. And when you find them, you'll be good. I guess I'll go ahead and leave it there. You can find me at Reese J. Crockett on at Reese J. Crockett on YouTube, Rumble, and X, or the channel's just called Reese Crockett on Rumble and YouTube. Go ahead and share this video, like it, subscribe, and until next time.